take on ELO, and what's your take on electric light orchestras out of the blue in general?
Well, I think that's a good question. I think every album, every music piece we listen to has some kind of nostalgic quality to it. Mine comes from my childhood. This is the album my dad would pick to play in the car. This was like the soundtrack to my childhood. It's like think of driving to Ocean City, Maryland, or wherever you went. Those places are attached to those songs, and they kind of carry with them feelings and different kinds of. And as for everyone, I think we all share that same kind of nostalgia, attachment. So, yeah. So I mean, that was just basically my kind of the album my dad would play over and over and over again became kind of a big part of our car trips, and every single song kind of carried with a certain kind of memento, a pace to it, some slow, some fast, and it kind of just became something that we all memorized, all knew the lyrics, were all singing, and there was some of the most insanely catchy choruses and different kinds of just different songs, and it's just the perfect kind of soundtrack to the car trip. So it's definitely a very, very nostalgic thing for me. It's become one of those albums that I can't believe there's a double album that has that many songs that I could honestly say I wouldn't change a single track. So yeah, it has that kind of quality to it, and has always kind of aged well. Although like a lot of people, it kind of came on the heels of like the disco change. The next album after this, which was the Discovery album, was much more immersed in disco. This album fused many different styles together, which is why it aged much better than some of their later releases, and their more previous releases were kind of more specifically one sound. This one was like many styles colliding to make a great soundtrack. So yeah, definitely a very important album.
Awesome. Kyle, what's your take on ELO's Out of the Blue?
So unlike Mike here, this album doesn't really have many nostalgic memories for me. This was actually an album, other than the bigger songs off the album, I actually didn't hear this album in full until Mike had me listen to it. What was that? 4 years ago now?
Yes.
It's quite a while ago now. But
at gunpoint. Oh no, not gunpoint.
Yeah. Well, maybe a little bit now. But it's become an album that I may not like every song on it, but there are songs that have just worked their way into my usual rotation, and they've stayed there. Like Mike said, I like that he brought the disco influence on it. There is some of that here, but I really appreciate the way that they fused that with the other sounds that were going on at the time. Because that did really help it age well, especially today when we see modern artists going back to that disco sound. I mean, you could take one of these instrumentals and just put like Dua Lipa's vocals over it, and it would be believable that that's just a modern song. And now the production as a whole on this album held up very well.
Awesome. And yeah, I was gonna say my initial impression. I'm a big. I mean, I have not seen ELO live. I mean, I know Mike has seen them. Like, I lost track how many times you've seen them.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I saw him at Radio City Music Hall. It was awesome.
Awesome, and because I haven't seen them live. They're on my list of acts to go see live and whatnot. I'm very curious to see how these types of songs would go over live with Jeff Lynne's like orchestra and whatnot too. I mean, it's electric orchestra. My initial impressions personally are that, like, I gotta say, this album is, I would say it's one of the pivotal albums from, I would say, like the 70s or so. Like, definitely a decade definer, truthfully. Do I like all the songs on there? Because some of them are lesser known than others. Yeah, there's some songs I like more than others personally, but overall, I think it's a really strong double album. And for those who are watching us live, here's the LP itself. There's a double album. Woo! And when I showed Mike this, he was like, "What's going on?"
Yeah, I almost fell on my chair. I had to catch myself.
You're like, this just sounds. It's got the double LP right there. I know we're doing it live. I don't really care, but like, it's really it's a solid record, and just from the opening of Turn to Stone to like even all the way down to like the third side has Mr. Blue Sky as the last song. I mean, come on, there's some incredible songs just in general on this one album, and Mr. Blue Sky is a staple, of course.